You, I heard you were drafting your fantasy basketball team this weekend, and you have no idea what you are doing. In this episode, I'm going to share my top 5 must target players for last minute fantasy basketball drafts. Welcome to Game Pick Fantasy Basketball. I'm your host, Robin Marks. You can connect with me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Game Pick Podcast. If you are a first timer, it's your first time seeing this mug, please consider subscribing to the channel if you love fantasy sports. I want to take a minute to quickly shout out all of our brand new Discord members. As you know, if you've been to the channel before, we try to show some gratitude by just shouting folks out. We had a bunch of people join the server since the last time I filmed, so I just want to go ahead and go through and share some of their names. So the first person we want to shout out is Tex K. Big shout out to Tex K. Signed up actually at 4:49 a.m. late night. Maybe you're in a different time zone. I don't know. We're going to give a shout out to Sezza. That's Sezza. Big shout out to Jack Ferreira. The Heart's Deceitful 21. There's a lot happening there. Arabic. Shout out to Arabic. Shout out to D1 Keach. Shout out to Steffi Bear. Love that name. Big shout out to James P. The Raid Master. Shout out to the Raid Master. Big shout out to the Loom Master. I believe the Loom Master also sent me a reply email. So big shout out to you. I'm really happy that you're here with us. Big shout out to Matthew. Big shout out to Drew Skibu. Very interesting name. Big shout out to Sped Monkey. ERB710. Big shout out to ERB. Big shout out to Greek Freak 5544. Look, we even have Giannis in the chat. It's really cool. Big shout out to Not Jake D. Big shout out to Fino. That's Fino. Eric Bry. Dreads with two Z's. Big shout out to James NK1. Big shout out to Star Lord. And let's give a shout out to Swens04. That's SWEHNS04. And last but not least, big shout out to my man, Danger Dylan. Now, for my folks who are drafting this weekend, I get it. It can be stressful, especially if you're new to fantasy. You just came over from fantasy football. Somehow your nerdy friends convince you to try out this other nerdy game that we love to play. I get it. I'm with you. I am your people. With that said, I will not have you fail. Drafting later or drafting closer to the start of the NBA season can be a huge advantage for you if you know what you're doing. So what I'm going to do in this episode is share some players that in drafts, in mock drafts, real drafts that I've seen are kind of being undervalued. Some of it has to do with recent injuries. Some of it has to do just with overall perception of the player. Either way, we're going to go through it, and hopefully using this information, you'll be able to secure them in your draft and eventually bring home your championship and that league prize. So let's go ahead and jump on in. The first player we want to talk about is Lamelo, your man, Lamelo Ball. So Lamelo, let's do it on this side. So Lamelo Ball recently sprained his ankle. I think it's a grade 2 ankle sprain. So because of that, people are panicking in a lot of draft rooms, man. Like I saw him the other day in a mock draft go in the mid-second round. Like people are panicking. Oh no. And that's kind of where you get the value. And this is not just for this season. This is in general. This can apply in general. If people get injured leading up to the beginning of the season, people fear drafting them. So it could be, an advantage for you if you're keen enough to understand that a grade 2 ankle sprain will keep him out for a few weeks, but you have over 20 weeks of season to play, including your playoffs, right? So for me, I'm okay with having a really good player for cheap, and then he misses a couple of weeks, but I get him for the playoffs or I get him mid-season. A good example of this, I think it was last season, Karl Anthony Towns was injured to start the season. So he had a big O for out next to his name on most fantasy basketball platforms. So because of that, people fear drafting him. I think I grabbed him in the second round of a startup dynasty. So I'm sitting there with James Harden with my first round pick and then Karl Anthony Towns with my second round pick. With that said, understand your league mates. Think about, their interests, who are their fans. And also one thing that is really kind of I want to say deceptive way to kind of encourage your league mates to stay away from players you want. If you have a group chat, if you have, some kind of, platform where you guys talk about it, even in ESPN now, I know there's like the ESPN chat app that you can use. Go in there and just create fear around him. Like, hey guys, man, sucks about Melo, man. I wouldn't touch him. Like, stay away from him. Now, if you're playing with really, competent fantasy players, they won't fall for it. But I think if you know your league and you have a lot of new people, maybe all of you guys are starting for the first time together, you're like in high school or college, and this is your first time playing fantasy basketball, you can use that to your advantage. Like, I wouldn't draft him if you guys did, like, you're trying to help them. Like, make it out like, hey, I'm trying to help you guys. LaMelo's injured. He's going to be out. Make sure you guys don't draft him. And then when he drops, like for me, I'm okay with drafting him maybe in a 12-man league, maybe in that 9 to 10. I've seen him drop into the second round already. You know what I'm saying? So there are some players that I like, more than him before, 8, maybe. But I'd consider him at 7 or 8. You know what I'm saying? Even in this position right now. So just think about that. As you go through Lamelo Ball, you can get tons of value on him. Next player we want to talk about is not LeBron James. Got a little delay here. Oh, is it LeBron James? Yeah, it's LeBron James. Okay, so the King. Let's talk about the King. LeBron James has been a staple of the first round for as long as I've been playing fantasy. I think this might be my 6th or 7th year of playing fantasy. Sports in general, right? I started football the same year I started basketball. And we've never seen anything like this. We've never seen a guy that we think is going to hit, fall off the cliff essentially and kind of tank in terms of his value. And it never happened. So I saw him early on. This is like in his prime, essentially. He was going as like a top 3 player at one point. Then it kind of slowly dropped, and he's been in that 8-9 area every year. And then he finishes, especially in points leagues, he finishes, in the top 10 consistently. You know what I'm saying? He's one of the top performers every single year on a per game basis, right? I think I shared something on my Twitter today that last year he averaged like 25 a game, like 6 or 7 assists, rebounds, like he's wild consistent, like very, very valuable player. But for some reason, people think that this is going to be the year that he's going to fall off. So because of that, again, I'm seeing LeBron James go in the 2nd and even 3rd round in some drafts, which is crazy to me. Yes. Are there concerns about his health in these last few years? He's missed some games, yes. But people miss games. People are still drafting Embiid. Embiid has been a consistent, chronic, habitual, absentee member of his team. Last year, he was pretty consistent, and I think that's what's kind of moved him back up. But even before that, people were drafting Embiid early because they know when he's healthy, he can produce on a high level. It's the same thing with King James. But people, for some reason, because of his age and the fear of him falling off. So this is my advice to you, and this, again, will be valuable information for LeBron maybe for the next 3 or 4 years. Until we see him taper off, until we see his production come down, let's keep treating him like a first rounder. So for me, if I could get LeBron James at the back end of the first round or even the top of the second, I'm definitely not letting him fall to the 3rd, and I'm not letting him drop to the middle or the end of the 2nd, So for me, I'm okay with drafting LeBron at the end of the 1st, especially in points leagues, and definitely at the top of the 2nd. So if you got that 12th pick in a 12-man league and you got that back-to-back and you can get a LaMelo Ball and then grab LeBron James, just do it. Just do it. Trust me. And some might disagree, and that's fair. And if you guys disagree, do me a big favor. Agree or disagree. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this take. LeBron James will be a first-round value, right? Like he'll give you first-round value, but you might get him later for at least the next 2 to 3 years. Let me know if you disagree with that. For the next 2 or 3 years, LeBron James will be a first-round level performer in fantasy sports. Okay, so the next player we want to talk about is Ben Simmons. And my apologies, Ben has the old Philadelphia jersey here, but he plays for the Brooklyn Nets now, as you probably know. Again, this is a guy, I'm seeing him go way later in drafts. Like, I want to say I've seen him go in the 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th round, like way down. Like nobody's thinking about Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, you rewind a year or two ago, Ben Simmons was like top 20 level type guy. People were looking at him like, yo, he is a solid play, especially in dynasty formats. He was so high and he's plummeted on my rankings, hashtag basketball rankings for their dynasty outlook. So it seems as if people are down on Ben Simmons. When people are down on players who have tremendous upside, like a Ben Simmons, who's been out resting, chilling, resting his feet, resting his dogs, right? When people sleep, this is when you could shake them up and wake them up. So I would totally recommend eyeing Simmons and seeing where he is, in the ADP of the app that you're drafting on, whether it's ESPN or Yahoo or Sleeper. See where he is, Fantrax, see where he is, and kind of think about the way you're going to construct your team. And I would reach for him. I would reach for him at least a round or a half a round before his ADP, because someone else is going to take him. And he's been playing. He looks pretty good in practice too. Can't shoot worth a lick. He shoots like he's missing an eyeball or something. No disrespect, Ben Simmons, but he's still an amazing contributor in terms of defensive stats, also with assists, scoring. Like he's going to get you this fantasy points. So I don't care about, whether or not he can hit threes. I want him to be who he is. So I would strongly recommend moving him up around where he's ranked in the projections on the app that you're drafting on. The next player we want to talk about is Zion. Listen, guys, for me, Zion, I'm on a hilltop about Zion. I'm doing short form videos about him. I'm like, if you haven't seen my TikTok, I'm like grilling chicken in my backyard, talking about how we need to fire this man up. I saw him recently go in a dynasty startup league, real dynasty, not a mock, first round. Somebody drafted him, I think, with the 10th or 11th pick. And for me, I was like, I can't even be mad at it. It was a points league dynasty. I can't even be mad at it. It seems a little crazy, right? To draft, you're going to draft Zion in the first round, where some of these platforms have him ranked, as like a 3rd round pick or 4th round pick, even on some apps, So for me, going first for redraft might be a little lofty, a little too high, a little too, it might be a stretch. I do think top of the second, he should not go beyond. I don't think he should be getting drafted in the 3rd round, especially for points leagues. I think that Zion Williamson, when he was healthy, he was a double-double machine. The man was averaging 26 points a game, over 10 rebounds a game. Like, come on, what are we doing here? I think, again, we're drafting because of what might happen, like injury history. Like, we cannot approach this game like that, because people are going to be healthy until they're injured. It's just a fact. Now, there's some players that I won't mention that have unibrows that I don't particularly ever consider drafting because of their injury history, because the same way that people are healthy until they're injured, people are injured until they're healthy, So for me, I'm going to say it, Anthony Davis. I've never seen a healthy Anthony Davis. Every year, it's like peaks and valleys, where with Zion, we have seen a season of him and he went off. So I have him all over the place. I'm drafting him wherever I can get him. I would definitely move him up a round or two of where he's showing up in terms of projections on ESPN, on Yahoo. I think ESPN actually adjusted their rankings recently, and I haven't reviewed them. But if he's going anywhere in the 3rd or 4th round, move him up to the 2nd, man. You won't be disappointed. Okay, so that's my take for Zion. And before we do the last one, I have 5 people that I want to share with you. But before we do the last one, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Owner's Box and their new one-of-a-kind fantasy sports format, Lightning Lineups. The game is super simple. All you have to do is pick the lineup that you think will score the most fantasy points. When you start the game, you'll see 3 sets of lineups and 3 players each in the lineups. If you don't like your options presented to you, you don't have to stay with them and like, oh, this sucks, this is boring. No, you can actually, just like you're hitting the slots in Vegas, you can hit the lightning lineups button, and it'll switch lineups until you find the lineups that you like. Imagine going to the slots in Vegas, hitting the slots and being like, I don't like that one. Let me try another one. I don't like that one, without having to put money each time, right? So you finally find a lineup that you like, all sevens, you know what I'm saying? All like, Zion Williamsons. You can spin as many times as you want until you find that right team. And after you pick your lineup, you can even add more lineups to increase your payouts. Finally, choose your desired entry amount and watch live as your team racks up points. It's as easy as spin, pick, win. Sign up right now and use the promo code GamePickPodcast. Owner's Box, listen to this one, guys. This is crazy. Owner's Box will match your first deposit up to $500. It's unheard of. If you don't know what a deposit match is, suppose it's like, you know what? I want to try this game that Robbie keeps talking about. I got $20. Let me try it. You take your $20, you give it to them, and then they'll say, you know what? Thanks for the 20. You can use that to play this Lightning Lineups game, but we'll give you another 20 and match it. So now you have 40. It's like getting free money. Like, don't be silly. Take advantage of this opportunity. If you want to try it out, all you have to do is download the Owner's Box app on Android or iOS. Visit ownersbox.com if you don't want to do it on your mobile device. And also, don't forget, very important, use the promo code GamePickPodcast. Now, for the last player on our list, not the sexiest pick, but definitely somebody we got to talk about. You know what I mean? The Frenchman, Rudy Gobert, brand new to the Minnesota Timberwolves. When I tell you that this man, I think he is falling in drafts because of the trade, but also just name value. His name is not as cool as Kevin Durant or Tyrese Halliburton, who is like the fantasy draft darling this year, which I think might be way overvalued. And you got to be careful. I would not take him in the first, especially in points leagues. Rudy Gobert is solid. He is a solid fantasy contributor. I've seen him fall to the third round, late third round even. Rudy Gobert, in my opinion, is a late second round pick, early third maybe. You could even stretch it depending on who's left on the board. Maybe consider him in the middle of the second. But Gobert should not be falling to the third or fourth round in drafts. I would strongly recommend grabbing him. He is the kind of player that, because most of our fantasy platforms for points leagues give you like really, really big points for blocks, like you're getting 4 points for a block, is super valuable. So he doesn't need to score a bunch of points. He doesn't need to like be the biggest scorer. Like he doesn't need to average 25 points a game to be valuable. But if he's averaging 3 blocks, and especially if you're playing category leagues, like you can just seal up your block category right then and there. You know what I'm saying? So for me, category points, whatever it is, Roto, Game Pick podcast, or Game Pick format on Sleeper, whatever format you're playing, he is someone that I would target and I wouldn't let fall. Don't let his name value or his blonde hair like throw you off. Don't be like, oh man, I don't want that guy on my team. Because for me, the years that I did not draft Gobert that was the reason. I was like, Rudy Gobert, I don't want him. Like I want Jared Allen. I want somebody else, But numbers don't lie, guys. Don't miss out on your opportunity to like secure your solid center, solid big for the season and bring home that championship. Grab yourself some Rudy Gobert. All right. So listen, guys, I am super grateful for this show today, and everyone in the, let me try to get this taken care of. And everyone in the Discord. People are super duper active. You know what I mean? We really have been growing. I'm so grateful. Please make sure you follow us on social. You can check me out TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Game Pick Podcast. And very important, I know you guys are in leagues and you don't want to like have your league mates getting the same information as you. I get it. And I did that actually for the first maybe 3 or 4 years. And then it got really fun when me and my league mates realized that we were following the same fantasy sports personalities. So it's cool to be in the community. So like it's okay to like bring your friends over to our Discord so you guys could talk fantasy together. And you can do, you could always reach out to me, shoot me a DM. Everyone in my community knows. Big up playoff Steph, big up Raptors in 6, big up David Vega, Dave Carrick, big shout out Carrick. Aussie Boomers, big shout out AP Jones. They all know, like, if you send me a DM and you need like a little private consultation on Discord, I'll definitely share that information with you so you don't have to put it on blast for the whole league to see. So please tell your friends about it. You know what I'm saying? Tell your league mates. We want them to join as well. If you have an idea for a future episode, or if it's something you want to see this season, please drop a comment and let us know. Also, make sure you join the Discord. The link is in the description of this video. Don't forget to bang on that subscribe button. Hit us with a thickety thumbs up and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget, play the waivers, set your lineups, and watch the next video, you freaking fantasy nerd. That was harsh. Okay, play nice. Peace.